On the quiet school campus, Matsuboshi sits beside Rina in class. The teacher is in the middle of his discussion, but Matsuboshi can't focus. His eyes drift toward Rina, who doesn't acknowledge him at all. Her silence and indifference form a quiet wall between them, one he can't seem to cross. In their second year of high school, Matsuboshi finds himself beside her once again. He looks around the classroom, unable to tell what kind of people their new classmates are just yet. In his mind, he imagines the usual mix: bossy types who try to control everyone, attention seekers desperate for praise, and competitive students willing to go as far as sabotage. No matter who they are, Matsuboshi vows to protect Rina from all of it. Someone suddenly calls out to him. Ishikawa points out how he and Rina are seatmates again. Hanako is there too, happy they're in the same class once more. Mitsuki is with them this year, though Ishikawa jokes it's boring now that Mitsuki can't peek at them from the windows of another building like last year. They'd exchange silent hopes for a good year ahead, and a few light nods say more than words could. Their new homeroom teacher, Tobaru, introduces herself. She appears strict and composed, announcing that it's her first time taking charge of a homeroom class. Determined to maintain discipline and order, she tries to keep a professional face. However, there's already an issue: Matsuboshi and Rina. Their subtle gestures, too soft for others to pick up on but too sweet for her overactive imagination, threaten her resolve. She's had nosebleeds just from watching them interact. There's even a rumor that they're dating. She prepares herself mentally, knowing she might have to endure far more than she expects this year. While Tobaru discusses the semester schedule, Reina asks Matsuboshi if she can switch seats. The student in front of her has a large frame, and it's hard for her to see the board. Matsuboshi, remembering what they used to do, casually lifts her up and lets her sit on his shoulders while balancing her desk on his head. Tobaru, sensing something unusual mid-discussion, turns around. But by the time she does, both students are back in their original seats. As it turns out, the student in front of Reina notices the situation and offers to switch seats, allowing her a better view of the board. After the first class, they're required to move runes for the next subject. Reina is fast asleep in her chair. Matsuboshi tries to wake her, but she doesn't budge. With time running out, he carries her on his back and walks to the next classroom. Though it surprises him that she's already this tired on the first day, it reminds him of animals in hibernation. Her slow, quiet movements and drowsiness make him imagine that maybe she's storing up energy for a season of growth. If she's entering a new phase of development, then maybe he needs to grow too. In the classroom, Reina eventually wakes. Matsuboshi wants to share his thoughts, but Reina simply thanks him for carrying her earlier. At lunchtime, the two sit together on a bench near the classroom. Tobaru and a fellow teacher walk by, taking notice. Tobaru, doing her best to act indifferent, joins her colleague and sitting across from them at a vacant spot. Reina opens her lunchbox and tells Matsuboshi she made meatballs, the kind he likes. He thinks back to her exhaustion that morning and suspects she must have stayed up preparing them. Reina expresses worry that she made too many, but Matsuboshi reassures her. He insists it's fine as she makes delicious meatballs, and he's happy to eat everything because she went through the trouble of making it for him. Tobaru watches this scene with tension rising in her chest. She tries to focus on her own lunch. When her colleague lifts her food, a crow swoops in and snatches it from her hand. They decide it's safer to eat indoors and walk away, leaving the two students alone again. Now alone, Reina begins feeding Matsuboshi the meatballs herself. One after another, she pushes them into his mouth until he's overwhelmed, struggling to chew and swallow. Still, he endures it, cheeks full. Later in the afternoon, homeroom resumes. The weather has shifted. Reina, sensitive to the cold, begins to shiver slightly in her seat. Tobaru watches from the front of the room, feeling confident for once. She's managed to get through most of the day without a nosebleed despite several close calls. But when she glances at them again, that fragile illusion shatters. Reina now sits in Matsuboshi's lap. To Tobaru, it doesn't look like a classroom anymore. It resembles a snow-covered cabin where two lovers cling to each other for warmth. She tries to stay composed to say her closing remarks for the day, but her vision darkens. Before she can properly dismiss the class, blood begins to stream from her mouth. Final groan, she collapses forward onto her desk, defeated. The next day, Matsuboshi and Rina walk to school together. Ishikawa and Hanako catch up to them as they all make their way to class. They break some news: there will be a transfer student joining them today. When Tobaru arrives in class, she welcomes the new transfer student. She has a red ribbon in her hair, and her slightly open shirt exposes a part of her belly. She greets everyone cheerfully and introduces herself as Riku. Since there is a vacant seat in front of Reina, Tobaru tells her to sit there. Her unusual look and demeanor leave everyone astonished. Students like her are rare at the school. Once seated, Riku turns around to greet Reina, who is behind her. As usual, Reina instantly leans forward, her face extremely close to Riku's. Matsuboshi watches with concern, thinking it's too much of a baptism for a transfer student. Matsuboshi assumes Reina is being too aggressive, but to his surprise, she's only introducing herself. Riku instantly adores Reina. Caught off guard by her cuteness, she embraces her tightly. Reina turns red, visibly flustered. Riku becomes so taken with her that she starts treating her like a baby, smitten by her presence. Meanwhile, Tobaru, doing her best not to pass out, watches the scene unfold. After class, the day winds down and students prepare to head home. Matsuboshi turns to Reina, but she's preoccupied with Riku, who excitedly invites her to hang out. Reina agrees, and although she wants to ask if Matsuboshi can come with them, Riku doesn't hear her. Overexcited, Riku grabs Reina's bag and drags her toward the door. His imagination runs wild, Riku challenging Reina to a power struggle and trying to assert herself in the social hierarchy. Matsuboshi panics, feeling like he must rescue her, and rushes after them. In reality, Reina and Riku are just in a cafe, sipping drinks and having fun. Matsuboshi trails behind them and spots them through the window. Riku is busy taking photos of their drinks while Reina stays motionless. From outside, Matsuboshi watches the peaceful scene. But in his mind, he's convinced something tense is happening. Even though Reina and Riku are just enjoying their time together, Matsuboshi imagines the standoff like something out of a Western film, with both silently fighting for their place. Suddenly, Riku wants to go somewhere else. This makes Matsuboshi panic even more. The fact that she wants to leave with Reina makes him think that she might bring her to a place where fellow punks are waiting, picturing Reina being beaten up. In reality, though, they are simply going to a nearby photo booth to take cute pictures together. Before she can say anything, Riku glances outside and mentions how it's getting late. They decide to head home. Riku leaves first. When she's out of sight, Matsuboshi approaches Reina and asks if everything's okay. Reina says she is, but her face shows some hesitation. What scares her is the thought of her friendship with Riku ending up like the one she lost back in elementary school. He assures her that it's not going to be like that again. That night in her room, Riku rolls over her bed, scolding herself for acting too cheerful earlier. It almost felt weird. But the truth is, all she ever wanted was to be friends with Reina again. She opens an old yearbook from elementary school and flips to a class photo. There captured in the frame are both her and Reina. She had known Reina all along. The next morning in class, Reina greets Riku, and Riku smiles, thanking her for the previous day. Despite the brief exchange, Reina spaces out a lot during the day. Her thoughts return to her elementary school friend, the one she got close to too quickly and eventually lost. She starts worrying that the same thing is happening again. Riku doesn't seem as lively as she was before, and the contrast is hard to ignore. Matsuboshi notices her uneasiness and quietly figures out the reason. He comforts her, saying he does not mind Reina being too close and personal with him at all. Sometimes people just have the wrong idea, so it's better to talk to her. At the end of the day, as Riku prepares to leave, Reina grabs her hand and pulls her aside. She tells Riku that since Riku took her out yesterday, today it's her turn to lead. Riku is surprised but pleased by the idea, though she tries to keep her cool. They spend the rest of the afternoon together, going to places Reina picks. They play games, eat snacks, and enjoy other things. Eventually, Riku is so full she can barely move, and they sit down to rest. It's then that Reina opens up about her past. She tells Riku about a friend she had in middle school, someone she became too close with too soon. That friend suddenly left her behind, and ever since then, she's been scared of forming close friendships. She apologizes if she did anything wrong the other day, but to her surprise, Riku interrupts. She says she should be the one apologizing. Then she tells Reina something she's been keeping to herself. They had already met once before. Back in elementary school during their first day, Riku and Reina sat beside each other. At first, Riku misjudged Reina because of her quiet voice, but when Riku realized she had forgotten her notebook, Reina came closer and shared hers without hesitation. That simple gesture broke the wall between them. From then on, they did almost everything together, eating lunch, walking home, and spending every break side by side. Eventually, Riku began to feel guilty. She feared that dragging Reina around too much might be exhausting her. Instead of asking how Reina felt, she made the decision on her own to step away. She started avoiding Reina. What she didn't know was that her absence confused and hurt Reina deeply. As Riku tells her story, tears start falling down her face. But before she can apologize again, Reina responds. She tells Riku she had fun yesterday, and even back then too. Hearing that, Riku cries even harder. She finally says sorry for everything. Reina comforts her. She's just glad that everything is a simple misunderstanding after all. The next day, Riku can't stop recalling how fun yesterday was. She even considers asking Reina to go out with her again, but her cheerful mood is instantly disrupted when Mitsuki suddenly approaches her. Riku's face shifts from happy to horrified. Though Mitsuki greets her kindly, Riku doesn't recognize her at all. When Mitsuki suggests they go have drinks and catch up, Riku agrees out of courtesy. As they walk, Riku tries to recall who Mitsuki is. She changes schools so often that it's hard to keep track of past classmates. They arrive at a hamburger place where customers are asked to write their names in a logbook. Riku feels this could be her chance to finally know who Mitsuki is. However, Mitsuki writes Takeshi instead. She explains it's become a habit not to write her real name due to anxiety. Riku's hope of solving the mystery fades again. As they wait for their food, Riku keeps thinking about her name. Then Mitsuki suddenly leans in and asks if something is bothering her. Riku is taken aback, thinking Mitsuki might be interested in her romantically. She grows tense as Mitsuki inches even closer. But before she can react, Mitsuki quickly swats at something near her. A bee had been about to sting Riku, and Mitsuki acted just in time. The shock overwhelms Riku. She unexpectedly starts crying, which alarms Mitsuki. But Riku admits the tears are out of frustration. She still can't remember her name. Mitsuki finally reintroduces herself, revealing they were classmates in 6th grade, along with Reina. Riku apologizes for not recognizing her sooner. Mitsuki understands, especially since they never really talked ever since then. Still, even with the name, Riku can't recall her clearly. Back home, Riku opens her old yearbook. Scanning the pages, she finally finds Mitsuki's photo, and only then does her memory come back. The next day at school, Matsuboshi and Reina are having lunch together when Ishikawa and Hanako join them. Shortly after, Mitsuki and Riku arrive. Upon noticing Matsuboshi sitting beside Reina, Riku becomes uneasy. Acting on impulse, she pulls Reina away and scolds Matsuboshi, demanding to know who he is and warns him the two of them have been friends since elementary. When Matsuboshi calmly says that he and Reina are dating, and Reina confirms it, Riku is stunned with embarrassment. Matsuboshi attempts to formally introduce himself, but Riku runs away in shame. The group wonders what's wrong, but Riku simply can't handle the fact that she mistook Reina's boyfriend for just another classmate, and that she even bragged about being close to Reina. Matsuboshi lies lazily on the sofa, holding a bag of chips and watching the TV show without much interest. His eyes land on a video game case lying on the center table. The title reads Granny Crossing. His sister, seeing this, tells him that she is preparing for an upcoming exam, so he can try the game since she won't be able to play it for a while. With nothing better to do, Matsuboshi picks it up and decides to give it a shot. The game is a town simulator where players build their own villages filled with animal residents. Intrigued by the idea, Matsuboshi creates a character that looks exactly like himself. From the moment he starts, he becomes fully immersed. In the game, he meets Tom, a cheerful and successful animal character who lives in a beautiful house that is at least 10 times bigger than Matsuboshi's small starter tent. Matsuboshi feels motivated and curious, and Tom offers advice. He tells Matsuboshi to gather sticks, fruits, vegetables, and any useful items. He can sell these to him, and he will give him money in return to upgrade his home. At first, the game seems simple, but it quickly becomes clear that each task comes with obstacles. Bees swarm out of trees when Matsuboshi shakes them for fruits. Still, he does his best, gathering everything he can find. At the end of the day, he brings the items to Tom, who is impressed by his dedication. Tom pays him 100 pels for each item, explaining that it's all he can afford because of the game's poor economy. Rather than being discouraged, Matsuboshi becomes more determined. He works harder, fishing whenever he can, catching rare insects such as butterflies, building furniture, and even constructing a handmade wooden table to sell. Once again, Tom is happy for this, and his efforts pay off when Tom buys all the items for 5,000 pels. Eventually, Matsuboshi starts a small garden in the game and grows his own cabbages. When harvest time comes, he brings his crops to Tom. Before handing them over, he sees Tom in the marketplace claiming the cabbages as his own, telling customers they are organic and grown by him. Matsuboshi watches silently as Tom sells the cabbages for 2,000 pels each, 20 times more than what Matsuboshi gets. Still, when Matsuboshi approaches to sell more, he mentions how high of a price Tom sells his cabbage, so Tom offers him some extra pels as a bonus. Matsuboshi earns over 30 million pels, enough to buy the house of his dreams. His in-game home becomes cozy and spacious, filled with custom furniture and decorations. It feels like a real accomplishment, and he enjoys the comfort of what he built through effort. At lunch the next day, Matsuboshi shares his in-game experiences with Reina. She tells him she used to play Granny Crossing too and invites him to visit her town someday. Before doing that though, Matsuboshi focuses on finishing his own town. He works day and night in the game, farming vegetables, crafting furniture, and trading with his neighbors. Eventually, his town becomes one developed town in the game. With so much wealth, he hosts a fancy birthday party for Tom. They go to a virtual bar, enjoy music, and are entertained by girls. Tom ends up falling in love with one of the girls at the bar. As they spend time together, he begins to dream about a future with her, traveling, getting married, and even starting a family. That evening, Tom and Matsuboshi also have dinner on a yacht, watching the view and talking about how far they've come. Everything seems perfect until Tom notices a gunman hiding in the shadows. The shooter aims at Matsuboshi. Without thinking, Tom jumps in front of the bullet to save him, and he dies in Matsuboshi's arms. The loss affects Matsuboshi deeply. His avatar changes, his once bright clothes turn dark, and his hair grows long and unkempt. He buries Tom in the virtual town, building a small cemetery with Tom's statue. and he visits the grave often, remembering his friend. Eventually, he remembers Reina's invitation. He decides to visit her town to distract himself. When he arrives, he is shocked. Reina's town doesn't look like a normal game environment. It is incredibly detailed, with realistic lighting, lifelike establishments, and even bigger and larger roads and buildings. Everything feels like real life. The town is so advanced that Matsuboshi begins to wonder how much time Reina spent building it. His curiosity turns into suspicion. He starts to believe Reina is trying to recreate Earth within the game. The structures, routines, and people in her town are too real. He even starts to imagine that Reina might want to leave the real world entirely and live in the virtual one. As his thoughts spiral, Matsuboshi recalls a theory about virtual worlds. If a simulation has enough data and detail, it could become indistinguishable from reality. With the help of a quantum computer, such a simulation could potentially become real. The more he thinks about it, the more anxious he becomes. He thinks about how virtual reality and actual reality can clash and switch places. Faced with this possibility, Matsuboshi makes a decision. You must pull Reina away from the game before the line between their world and the simulation disappears forever. Matsuboshi arrives at school the next day and is immediately concerned when he sees Reina's seat empty. His imagination starts running wild. He wonders if Reina has fully uploaded herself into the virtual world. In his head, he prepares to accept the possibility that she no longer exists in reality. As his thoughts spiral, he strikes a strange, dramatic pose, silently declaring that he will soon follow her into the game. At that exact moment, the classroom door opens. Reina walks in and catches Matsuboshi mid-pose. He immediately tells her how amazing her town is in the game. Reina explains that she shares the game file with her brother Ren, who is really into it. That's why the town looks so developed. Still suspicious, Matsuboshi asks if Ren still exists in the real world. Reina doesn't understand what he means and simply stares at him in confusion. The next morning, Matsuboshi is getting ready for school. His mother is in the kitchen preparing food. Feeling thirsty, he grabs what he thinks is a glass of milk from the table and drinks it in one go. But as soon as he finishes, he realizes the taste is off. It's not milk. It's amazaki, a traditional sweet Japanese rice liquor that his mother poured for herself. He stares at the box of amazaki and begins to panic. He remembers reading about the Japanese Liquor Act, which says anything with at least 1% alcohol is considered liquor. He convinces himself that he is now officially drunk. He thinks about the typical effects of alcohol: inflated ego, extreme friendliness, and all sorts of behavioral changes. Feeling as though these things are already happening to him, he decides it's time to head to school. On the way, he runs into Reina on the road. He greets her in a loud and dramatic tone, his voice noticeably different. He even threatens to leave Reina behind if she doesn't catch up quickly, then suddenly grabs her face to speak more seriously. As they walk together, Matsuboshi notices how heavy Reina's school bag looks. Without hesitation, he picks up both Reina and her bag, carrying her as if she were weightless. Reina squirms in discomfort, her legs flailing, but Matsuboshi tells her to stop moving or she'll fall. Later in class, their teacher Tobaru asks everyone to open their textbooks. Reina has forgotten hers again, so Matsuboshi drags his desk right next to hers, sharing his book while sitting unusually close. Tobaru, noticing Matsuboshi's intense behavior, becomes visibly uncomfortable. Once again, overwhelmed by the stress, she spits blood and collapses at the podium. For the next period, the class has to change rooms. Riku spots Reina in the hallway and calls out to her, but Matsuboshi immediately invites Reina to walk with him instead. Reina agrees, and Riku is left standing alone. Even Mitsuki, who is hiding behind a wall, senses how strange Matsuboshi is behaving. Despite her effort to stay hidden, Matsuboshi finds her. She trembles as he approaches, but instead of doing anything odd, he simply points out a burdock root stuck in her hair. He plucks it out, puts it in his mouth like a toothpick, and then walks away, telling her to get herself together. Throughout the rest of the day, Matsuboshi continues to act unusually aggressive but extremely helpful. He lets classmates borrow his notes, feeds Reina during lunch, lends his coat when someone gets cold, protects Reina from a stray baseball, and even helps carry the teacher's things. Despite his strange and intense behavior, his classmates thank him for all this help. Still, Riku, watching him from the doorway, can't shake off the feeling that Matsuboshi is scary today. As class ends, Ren and Iru walk home together, chatting about random things from school. Suddenly, they hear someone call out to them. Ren immediately lights up at the sight of him and rushes over without hesitation, jumping on his back like everything is normal. Iru, on the other hand, notices something strange about Matsuboshi's behavior. His attitude feels different, unnerving even. What catches Iru even more off guard is when Matsuboshi turns to her and, out of nowhere, thanks her for taking care of Reina. His tone is so intense it creeps Eru out so much that she immediately pulls Ren off his back and hurries him inside their house without another word. Left alone with Rina, Matsuboshi turns to her and comments on how red her face looks today. Concerned, he leans in close to check if she has a fever. His face gets so close to hers that Rina flinches. Even though she feels fine, his closeness makes her flustered. To make things worse, her nose suddenly starts bleeding, so they sit on a bench nearby for her to clean up. While Matsuboshi presses a handkerchief to her nose, he calmly explains how nosebleeds can happen. Though Rina is physically fine, she suddenly bolts from the bench and runs straight home, wanting to get as far from Matsuboshi as possible. Back at home, Matsuboshi greets his younger sister, who's lying on the couch reading something. She immediately notices something off about him. He's acting even stranger than usual. He opens the fridge, grabs his snack, and without hesitation tries to feed her with it. Confused, she stops him, saying it's her food, but Matsuboshi insists as if he's doing her a favor. When his sister gets up to grab a drink, she spots a box of amazeki in the fridge. Matsuboshi tries to stop her from drinking it, but she reassures him. It's the non-alcoholic kind. It won't do anything. Matsuboshi is shocked. All this time, he really wasn't drunk. The next day, Matsuboshi's younger sister is at school. One of her classmates begs her to take over her cleaning duty in exchange for ice cream, and she agrees. When she gets to the cleaning area, she finds another student already there, Eru. Something about her seems familiar. She looks just like the girl often seen with her brother, Reina. The resemblance is so strong, she briefly wonders if Eru might be Reina's doppelganger, but she quickly shakes off the thought. It's too strange. Just then, someone calls out to her using her last name. Eru hears it and immediately realizes that this girl must be Matsuboshi's younger sister. Matsuboshi's sister immediately jumps to wild conclusions, assuming this girl might try to rope her in a pyramid or something. But Eru only wants to ask a simple question, if Matsuboshi is really her brother. When she confirms it, Eru bows and says he's been a big help to her sister Reina. Eru then introduces herself, and Matsuboshi's sister remembers the cute girl always hanging around with her brother. True enough, Eru pauses before admitting how truly cute her sister is. She goes on praising Reina for being a caring sister and even a good cook. Matsuboshi's sister starts to get the feeling that Eru really loves her sister. As they clean together, Eru also talks about Matsuboshi as a good man. But his sister, in contrast, calls him confusing, though she admits he's occasionally considerate. They spend the rest of the time chatting mostly about Reina and Matsuboshi. Eventually, Eru learns that the siblings don't get along very well. Still, Eru encourages her to keep trying, they're family after all. Matsuboshi's sister nods and agrees to give it a shot. When Matsuboshi gets home later, he finds his sister lying on the couch. She greets him and asks about Reina. Matsuboshi is overjoyed, interpreting her question as a sign she's interested in his life. His reaction is so exaggerated that his sister immediately regrets asking and swears never to do it again.